I'm not a musician, I'm a scientist studying music through this journey. And actually, the whole reason that I even started with this was as an experiment, I wanted to treat a friend of mine's cat allergy in his recording studio using sound. And it totally worked. And I said, wow, that worked. If that can happen, then what about all this other stuff? So I'm scientifically minded, and I like backing whatever I do, backing it up with research. So what I'm going to show you next is the research. Now, I'm not sure if any of you have heard of something called GDV testing. It stands for gas discharge visualization. And this is a Russian digital Kirlian photography that will test for basically biofields. And there's 5 different reports that this kind of technology can test for. But just because of these big screens and everybody in the room here, and I'm not sure what people can see in the back, I figured it would be most appropriate just to show shifts in our chakra charts. We all know what the chakra looks like. We know when they're supposed to be aligned and when they're out of alignment. And we've done a fair amount of testing with numerous patients, A, on the bracelet, B, with the CDs, which is actually new. So the first slide that we're looking at is a chiropractor. And just to set the frame of who this is, he works with a biofeedback device, but he had not received a session this particular day. But he had received sessions in the past, but not in a few weeks. But he religiously was wearing his bracelet. And so he came in, and what's amazing is the top looks pretty, the top picture before the bracelet, this is him with his bracelet off, and he's pretty aligned. And I asked him, what have you been doing? And he's like, I've just been doing his biofeedback work, whatever it was. And so he was already pretty much in balance. But even without the bracelet, we see the shift in the crown, in the top 2 chakras. We took the bracelet, put the bracelet on, and we rescanned, and we see the bottom, and he's perfectly aligned. What we have found consistently with everybody that we've tested is bracelet on, they're balanced. Bracelet off, they're not balanced. And you might say, well, then they always have to wear the bracelet? We're alternative practitioners. Everybody is, well, okay, even if you're a medical doctor, you're still an alternative practitioner if you're here, correct? Is that a fair statement? So we're all alternative practitioners here. And we live in a toxic world. I mean, even if you grow your own food and have the best marriage in the world, whatever, if you live, there's always some variable that is going to be throwing you out of balance. And as alternative practitioners, I feel by definition, we do proactive healthcare. You need to do something to keep your life balanced. In fact, the people that we see that are going for reactive healthcare, which is traditional healthcare, are people that basically neglect doing anything proactive at all, correct? And that's why they're in the place that they are. So I say to myself, if everybody has to do something as a chiropractor, whether I'm in perfect health, am I still getting adjusted? Sure. Am I still going to go get an acupuncture treatment? Of course. Am I still going to get a massage? Absolutely. But once again, it comes back to the C word, compliance. What is the minimum amount of work that I can do that can keep me balanced? Because we live in a lazy society, correct? So, yes, you have to wear a bracelet. And are you going to complain? Maybe you don't like blue. We have some pink ones too. There's always going to be something. But here, wearing a bracelet, being in your biofield as programmed with your specific information is something that's proactive, it's easy for you to do, and it's going to help keep you in balance. And all of our research supports that. So that's just one way of doing it. Plus, backing up with a sonic ceuticle. Sounds pretty good to me. Number 2, I'm very excited to show you this research. These CDs I make, they're ideas that come to me, but I never really know exactly what's happening. When I presented here last year, I said to myself, I want to run research. Like, what is this really doing? Some people made some orders last year, and I never really heard back from follow-up orders. I'm not sure if people are having issues with implementing this technology, and I'm available to help you with implementation for this, because we have this worked into our practice. And I want to just back up real quick. With these supplemental processes, a lot of people say, well, what do I do here? Before I get into this next slide, I want to share with you what we do. Person comes in for initial evocs, it's $160. For $160, they get a copy of the CD, they get their custom programmable RIP bracelet, they get an initial evaluation with the whole evocs paperwork form filled out. We sit down, we review it, and we do a session. We come up with a treatment plan, $160. And then whatever you want to do for your follow-up sessions is up to you. What I'm going to show you on this, and we had multiple people tested with the CD. This one I like the best, and time's limited, so I wanted to kind of just give you one example. But this is an energy healer. And the woman that did the scan is in New Jersey. I was in Colorado. I had no idea what was going on with the results of this until she sent them to me. And we were used to seeing with the bracelet consistently that straight chakra alignment. With almost everybody that we tested with the bracelets, that's the findings we saw. So when I saw things not being totally in alignment, I was like, oh man, it's not working. This isn't right. And as I was preparing for this presentation, I started taking a closer look at this data. And I went from not being very pleased with what I found to being exceptionally excited about what I'm about to show you. And if you're not sure exactly what you're looking at, let me explain it to you. There was an energy healer that came in and got treated. Now, the way that the experiment was run was she sat down with headphones. The EVOX was not involved. Now, these are preliminary tests. We're going to do more testing but I needed to establish a baseline of what can this CD do on its own. And so we did a scan, and the top picture is what you saw. Chakras, the sizes, some are big, some are small, they're out of alignment, and the biggest misalignment is the 5th chakra, the throat chakra. The woman, and the way that we set up this is like, I want the person to pick what track they want, just intuitively pick whatever one resonates most with them. And she chose track number 8, which is, man, I told myself, okay, fearful overwhelm versus accountability. And as I was looking at this, I said, well, wait a second, what note is 8? Does anyone have an idea? G. Does that mean anything to anybody? So, are you guys aware that all the chakras have different notes associated with them? So they do. Guess what note is the throat chakra? G. All of a sudden, this woman intuitively picked the right note. B, the one that showed up with her was the biggest, and this was tested before she had intuitively picked what it was, and she didn't know that her throat chakra was the biggest deficit out. So this was done as the baseline. And then when we went ahead and she played the track for 5 minutes, it totally shifted the throat chakra to the opposite direction, pulling the lower chakras into perfect balance after one 5-minute track. Now, consistently with all the other research that we've seen, within an hour, there needs to be a 3rd test that would be done. That would be kind of like the settling out period. But this is immediately following listening to the track with headphones without the EVOX for 5 minutes. Pulled them into balance and recompensated for the throat chakra. That is a profound physiological change by simply listening to a CD. And I challenge you to use any of your other sound healing CDs if you would see a shift like that. So all of a sudden I was like, we got something. Up what we're doing with this to back up what we're doing with this project. The next slide that I want to show you is why should people listen to the CD outside of the EVOX session? And this is what this last slide showed. There's something called Scilab, and it's a statistical analysis program that works through the GDV testing, and it checks for the energy in the room. And so the study shows a quiet room with nothing being played in it. People came into the room, they sat down, they randomly chose a CD, which was a track rather, which was zone 4. And what happened was it affected the entropy of the room. And the definition of entropy is chaos, is the reduction in chaos. How much chaos is in a person or in a room. And this showed by playing this CD in the space, it reduced the amount of chaos in the room. And so if you want to reinforce a track that they've been listening to through the EVOX, you're getting that auditory. Think about in your car driving as a teenager, you're like, oh man, that takes me back to that moment. It was so good, you know, making out with my girlfriend or whatever it was, right? But think about other songs that you could say, man, I remember those bad experiences. My parents used to play that all the time. My dad used to beat me all the time. So music has a lot to do with the way that our bodies interpret things. So as they're listening to these tracks, they start anchoring these tracks to your EVOX session. Now you take it home and they've had huge shifts, it reinforces that anchor. Then you play it in the room and it lowers the chaos in your body and in the space, and that's what this slide shows. So this is also, it's a sonic ceutical. It's a nutritional, it's a nutritional supplement for your emotional body. So I want to thank you.